Hey, it's Mike from Intermittent Fasting for the Win. Welcome to the Winner's Circle. This is where I have live Facebook chats with people who doing intermittent fasting or just getting started or have been on it for years. And we discuss everything about it and just have a wonderful time. I hope you'll join me today for this one. It's going to be special. And I'll talk to you again at the end. Yeah. Paige, I want to read this that you posted, and I'm going to start with that. You said, I've been an intermittent faster for almost 8 years now. I'm currently down 165 pounds and at a stable weight. That's incredible. Actually, I'm still losing about 2 pounds a month without even trying. I've experienced many of the benefits listed, reversing severe type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome. And I'm off all of my prescription meds, and my medical team has even written up case studies about me. My energy levels are significantly improved, and today is the 2,900th consecutive day that I've walked at least 10,000 strides, which is about 5 miles. And it said it would have been inconceivable to me, to the old me, to be able to do all of this. But perhaps the most satisfying thing, and now Courtney, when I interviewed her, she said something very similar. You said perhaps the most satisfying thing for me is the example that I'm setting for my children, demonstrating to them that it's always possible to turn even a seemingly hopeless situation around with effort and determination. Courtney said her family had her back
Yes,
again because
absolutely.
and that's exactly what you said there, just in a few different words. So to kick this thing off, take about 10 minutes here and give me a synopsis of your journey from start to where we're at right now, and then I got some questions I'm going to hit you with.
Awesome. First of all, Mike, thank you for inviting me. It's a real blessing to be with you here today.
Well, let me
And
just let me stop you, because you're one of my rock stars and you're one of my heroes in the intermittent fasting community. And I knew at some point I was going to have to interview you, so it's on now.
oh, thank you, sir. Okay, my journey. Uh, okay, my life changed forever in May of 2011, actually on my birthday. That was the day that my doctor summoned me to come on in and give me the lowdown on a recent bevy of lab tests that had been done. Now, at the time, I'd been morbidly obese for many years. I was pushing 350 pounds. I wore trousers with a 52-inch elastic comfort fit waistband.
Oh
I
yeah.
had uh, I had man boobs, and walking up a single flight of stairs left me winded. So it's not like I thought this is going to be a fun talk. I knew it was not going to be good news. I was expecting to be chivied and nagged, but I was not prepared for just how devastating the news was. Um, Across the board, my test results were catastrophically bad. Uh, just to take one, I'm sure most of the people that are listening are familiar with hemoglobin A1C, one of the primary
Yeah.
markers for blood sugar. And generally speaking, they want that to be under 6. Mine was
Yes.
12.8.
You were about
And
dead.
so essentially, I had pancake syrup for blood.
Yeah.
And all of my other test results were similarly out of whack. So my doctor proceeded to calmly and professionally and mercilessly read me the riot act and tell me what I had waiting for me. Uh, I had wildly out of control type 2 diabetes. I could look forward to heart disease, fatty liver
Yeah.
disease, kidney disease, hypertension, blindness, amputation, and
Hmm.
bottom lining it, I was staring at a miserable premature death. I was going to be an embarrassment and a burden on my family.
Yeah.
And
And you were probably so insulin resistant
yep,
that the numbers on that would have been just insane.
yeah. I mean, I think my fasting glucose, I believe it's called, was like at 430, which is just, I mean, absolutely ludicrous. So we weren't talking about like in 10 or 20 years I was going to be having some problems. I was circling the drain and I was
Yeah.
going down fast. I was, in one sense, I am so blessed to have got this information because I was probably literally months away from the point of absolute no return.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you can probably imagine, this was kind of terrifying. And I remember driving home in a daze. My kids were at school, my wife was off somewhere, and I just like, I tromped upstairs, crawled into bed, pulled the covers over my head, and just bawled, just cried like a baby until my
Yeah.
eyes were puffy and my pillow was like slick with snot. I mean, I was terrified and mortified and horrified and just had no idea what to do. And, you know, eventually I cried myself out. So I entertained myself for a while with the blame game. You know, I blame my parents, I blame my school, I blame my upbringing and my genetics, my family, my job, my boss. I'm pretty sure at some point in time I probably blamed Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. But
Absolutely.
yeah, you know, eventually that got kind of old. So at that point, I took a good hard look at myself in the mirror of my mind's eye. And I really did not like what I saw. Because let's face it, I had insisted on willful ignorance about my condition. It wasn't like this snuck up on me. It's not like I didn't realize that was like 350 pounds. It didn't ambush me or anything. I mean, I had drifted along on the currents of complacency for years, making conscious efforts to ignore every sign that things were drastically wrong with me, and now the bill was coming due. And I,
But that's something that we all do.
yeah,
We all live in some of us deeper than others, but it's denial.
oh, I was way deep for years and years and years. But that was actually one of the key turnaround moments for me, because I remember just again looking at that mental image of myself, and all all that fear and all that misery transformed into anger, into rage, and that anger was pointed directly at myself. And I remember consciously taking all that fear, all that terror, and, and just crystallizing it into a diamond of anger and using that to fuel me. And I made that on that very day, at that time, I made my most sacred vow that I wasn't going out like this. I wasn't going out without a fight. And yeah, the Grim Reaper will take me eventually. I mean that is the fate of all souls. But he
Yes.
wasn't going to find me an easy prize. I was going to scratch and claw for every second of life. And you know, but when I got taken, he'd know he had a fight on his hands. So that was the moment.
He better bring back up.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, pack a lunch. Basically, pack a lunch. I wasn't going to be easy prey. So that was the moment when I really first realized that I had some fire in my eye and some steel in my spine. Before that, I'd always thought of myself as being kind of weak and weak-willed, kind of cowardly, not having much willpower. And that was the first time I saw a glimmer of spirit in myself, some fight in my soul that really ended up turning out to be what I consider now to be one of my dominant character traits. But so I've made this grand promise to myself that I'm going to turn this thing around, that nothing in my life, with the exception of my family, was going to take precedence over reclaiming my health. You know, yummy foods, ease, relaxation, watching college football, all that was out the window. The only thing that mattered now was regaining my health and my family. Okay, so that's great. But now what? What
Yeah.
what do you actually do? I mean, it's one thing to make these grand pronouncements, but you wake up the next morning and it's like, okay, so what do I have for breakfast? What do I do about all this now? And that takes us to a place where I'm sure everyone who's been in this position has come up against this. I mean, the modern medical establishment. You ask your doctor, okay, great. You know, I'm serious. I want to turn this around. What do I do? And they've got two answers for you: drugs and lose a bunch of weight.
Yes.
And so they put me on a whole bunch of drugs, that many of which had nasty side effects and interacted in unpleasant ways. And the second turning point came when I was discussing these drugs with my doctor. And I mean, I'd already been on some of them for a while, and I wasn't liking it at all. I did not like the way they made me feel. And I asked him, doctor, you know, how long am I going to have to be on these things? And he never even turned around and looked at me. He was looking at his computer. He just shrugged his shoulders and said, man, your age and your condition, you'll be on for the rest of your life.
Rest of your life.
And I just remember looking at him. He never saw the expression on my face, but it's like my eyes narrowed. It's like my nostrils flared. I'm pretty sure that there was a big old vein, you know, like throbbing in my neck. And I just remember I didn't say a word, but I remember inwardly just like roaring, challenge accepted. It was like, I will prove you wrong. I'm a contrary SOB. And if you tell me I'm going to be on these things for the rest of my life, okay, I will cure myself of type 2 diabetes just to spite you, if nothing else.
Absolutely.
And so that was another turning point. Okay, you're just writing me off. Okay, I will prove to you that I'm a fighter. And so that was one thing. The drugs, that was one of the big things. And the other thing is they tell you to lose weight, but of course your doctor has no clue how to lose weight. So I got a referral to a nutritionist, and the nutritionist was telling me about the standard paradigm for weight loss, the calorie in, calorie out model.
Of course, yeah.
You know, based on the second law of thermodynamics, where it reduces your entire body physiology to an algebra equation. If you burn more calories than you eat, you'll lose weight. It's that simple, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
if you want to live in the gym.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't argue with physics, right? But that is so simplistic. Our bodies are so much more complex and sophisticated like that. I mean, than that. If you want to look at that literally, I mean, I'm sorry, it doesn't make any sense. 100 calories of kale is not the same thing as 100 calories of Captain Crunch. And I know that now, but at the time, that was what I had to work with. So I went to work with a calorie restricted diet, and I embraced it. And I remember going to the meetings, and they passed around all these little plastic models of food showing what your proper serving size was. And I tried to play it legit. And I remember being just hungry, starving all the time. And what I did was I compensated with exercise. At first, I couldn't do too much, but I would go walking every day, and I eventually got stronger. I joined the gym. I discovered the elliptical machine, and the elliptical machine was great because when I was younger, I'd love to run, but you can't run very far when you're like 300 plus pounds. But the elliptical machine let me put in as much effort as I could manage without trashing my knees.
Yeah.
And so I started just becoming obsessive about exercise. I mean, my workouts became more and more extreme. And after I was plateaued for a couple of months, which was really, really dispiriting. I mean, I was working my butt off. I was being super diligent about my diet, and the scale just was not budging for like 2, 3 months. And then it's like I kept pushing because basically, if I gave up, that was death. So I kept pushing, even no matter how dispirited I got. And eventually my body adapted and kind of turned the corner, and the weight started to fall off. And in this magical period of 10 months, I lost 100 pounds. And that was all calorie restriction
Yeah,
and
this was before you found intermittent
this is
fasting.
before I'd ever heard of intermittent
Yeah.
fasting.
Yes.
And I talked to my nutritionist when I reached 100 pounds down. That was like one of the great days of my life, as you could imagine. I mean, that was like the big giant, that was my Mount Everest, losing 100 pounds. And so I talked to my nutritionist. It's like, am I there yet? And we decided to keep going. And so I ended up losing 135 pounds. At this point, I was just an exercise maniac. I was doing these incredibly extreme workouts. I was working out for like 6 to 8 hours a day, which is
Goodness gracious.
just incredible. And then I ended up, my best friend died of cancer, and I decided that as a benefit to cancer, I was going to run my first marathon. And I started training, kind of tweaked my knee, and I had to go on rehab for my knee, and it wasn't quite ready when race day came, but I was too stubborn to give it up. And I did end up finishing the marathon, but I just trashed my right ankle doing it. I mean, I ended up tearing the main tendon of my ankle and suffering severe ligament damage. I mean, my ankle just was not supposed to bend like that.
Yeah.
And overnight, I went from being this highly trained athlete, slim and energetic, to being a virtual cripple. I remember trying to walk to our corner library to return a book, and I couldn't make it. It was too painful to walk like 2.5 blocks. And I went through this period of enforced inactivity and constant pain. I couldn't sleep at night, and it sent me to a really dark place. And I lost my focus. I lost total containment on my diet, and regained almost all the weight that I'd worked so hard to lose. And that was really dispiriting. And after 18 months, I finally got a clean bill of health. My ankle was as healed as it would ever be, and I was cleared to go back and work out without restriction. But none of the tricks that I was using before to lose this weight a second time would work anymore. The calorie restricted diet just wasn't working anymore. My body had adapted, and it learned from the first experience. And the homeostasis was set at a really high weight point. And beyond that, I just couldn't face the idea that this is all there was for me, that I was going to be starving to death for the rest of my life. I mean, I couldn't live that way. I remember being at this point of just total despair. And just there has to be a better way. There has to be another option. There can't just be you're either this fat slob who's doomed to die of metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes, or you have to work out every waking moment and be hungry for the rest of your life. And while looking around for other options, that was when I first found time-restricted eating. The first foray I had into this was the work of Dr. Alejandro Junger, his clean program, and it was a revelation to me. It was based on an 18-hour fast every day, and lot of other aspects to it, which we don't have time to go into here now. But the thing that was just life-changing to me was I could actually eat my fill. I didn't have to be hungry all the time. I mean, yes, I was fasting for a goodly period of each day, and I will not lie, the adjustment period was pretty rough. That first month was not a whole lot of fun. I'd never done anything even remotely like it before, but I was determined to go through the entire program, to give it a honest try. And after like 3 weeks or so, it got to be a lot easier, and I ended up totally embracing that program. I ended up it's like a 28-day program, and I kept at it for like 6 months. I mean, really just diligently following this. And I mean, the moderators of the online support group for the program just commented that I was one of the most hardcore people they'd ever seen. And I just loved it because I was eating yummy food and I was full. And after I adapted to the fasting period, it's like, yeah, towards the end of the fast, I was hungry, but so what? I mean, being a little bit hungry for a couple of hours isn't going to kill you. It's not
No,
like I was being tortured to death
is
or something.
it's not an emergency.
Yeah, and I was eating like a king. I was eating delicious food, and when I broke my fast, I mean, I was eating until I was satiated and until I was full. And so I followed that program probably for like a year or so, all told. And then I decided that I wanted to further educate myself. So I kept reading. I kept educating myself. I found Jen Steffen's program. I've read dozens of books about intermittent fasting by now. And
I'm sure you probably read Jason Fung's stuff
oh
too.
yeah, I have read
Yeah,
all of Jason Fung's stuff.
yeah.
He's a real gold mine of
He
information. And
is. He
for
is.
each one, I've taken little bits and pieces that work for me. I mean, I don't subscribe to anyone's particular program. I don't regard anyone as my guru or anything along those lines.
This right there.
I have crafted
You
a program that works
for
magnificently well
you
for me, and
works for you.
it's like
Yes,
I don't follow Jen Steffen's program, in totality by any means. The real takeaway that I took from Jen that really helped me enormously was the concept of a clean fast. Because before
yes.
then, in the morning, my favorite beverage was a cup of hazelnut nut coffee with milk and stevia. And I mean, I didn't have Jen's hot milkshakes, but the whole notion of the cephalic response and how your body expects, it tastes that food flavor and expects food, and that triggers a biological response. It's like, okay, now that you put it that way, that makes perfect sense. But I never thought of it
Yes.
before. It's like, okay, a cup of coffee with a splash of milk and stevia. What's the harm in that? And
Well,
lo and behold, the harm is that now you're on a dirty fast.
that's why when someone asks, that's like me right now. I don't even know where my book Fast Feast Repeat is. It's gotten passed from this one to the
Oh,
other and loaned out, but it's still in me.
yeah.
But
It's
here's
right
the
here.
deal. Yeah, and
That's where it is.
I tell people that are wanting to get started, I said, well, the first thing you need to do is educate yourself.
Yep.
Before you dive in, go ahead and get some education and learn some things.
And be critical. Listen critically.
Yes.
Don't just accept someone as your guru. And it's like, if they say something that, even if it's a key part of their program, is not working for you, then
don't do it.
Then don't do it.
Yeah.
Come up with a program that you can live with, that works for you. And I'll tell you the benefits that I have gotten out of this. You want to talk about non-scale victories? I mentioned before about how I used to view myself as being weak-willed and kind of cowardly and soft, and didn't have didn't have much of a in the way of willpower or any steel to myself. I, I now regard myself as just a world-class badass. As far as I'm concerned, you can see my mojo from space. I mean, I walk with swagger now because I've lost over 100 pounds twice. That's not easy. And yes, first time I completely did a face plant on maintenance. But the second time I finally figured it out. I cracked the code. And now I understand exactly how all of these mechanisms work in my body. I may not have a degree in, I may not be an MD, I may not have a degree in nutrition, but I am the world's foremost leading authority on how Paige Edwards' body works. And no one else can make that claim. I mean, I have completely changed the minds of my doctors, of my nutritionists, my entire medical team. I mean, they did not believe that I could get off all my medications. I've been off all my meds for almost 10 years now. Almost 10 years. And as far as they were concerned, that's not possible. They never heard of anyone else doing that in their practice before.
Well,
and I did that.
Here's the deal. Even though I'm not all the way through with my weight loss journey, I'm down 70 pounds now. But
which is amazing.
All it took was a phone call to my GP, to my general practitioner. And I said, look, I went for 3 days and I didn't take my blood pressure medicine. And this is what my blood pressure is. It's at this level steady. She said, well, you don't need as much then. So she called in a prescription and cut it in half. Now, when I go back and see her in October, I fully expect her to say, you don't need that anymore. And so I'm looking forward to that. But let me go ahead and hit you with some questions. You ready?
Please do, sir. Yeah.
All right. What's your normal protocol while you're on maintenance?
I am naturally gravitating to 19.5. I used to be 16.8, and then I was 18.6 for a long time. Now I'm generally doing 19.5, and that is every single day. I don't take any days off. I mean, it's not an effort anymore. It's not like it's something that I have to think about. It's just something that I do. I mean, IF at this point, for me, it's as comfy as shrugging on my favorite old jacket. It's just
okay. Let me tell you how comfortable it is to me now. This has been February 7. I'm in my 8th month. No, I'm in my 7th month of fasting. It's so comfortable to me now that I deleted my fasting app off of my phone. I don't even need it anymore. I know that when I go to bed, I don't eat. And I don't eat the next day until a certain, it's natural.
Yeah.
It has become natural. All right. Next question. What's your favorite meal to break a fast with? A lot of people like this question, and a lot of people want to know.
I actually have a rather different approach than most people. I eat the same meals more or less every single day. And to break my fast, what I have is I do a large veggie shake. It's it's based on kale and spinach and collard greens, Swiss chard, whatever greens look good. I'll put it in a base of herbal tea and nut milk or kombucha, and then I just throw in celery, carrots, avocados, turmeric root, ginger, throw in a bunch of hemp hearts, chia seeds, flaxseed meal, psyllium husk, just all these good ingredients. And I just blend it all together, and that's my lunch.
That's so many nutrients
Yep.
all in one.
It is. I offer it to my wife and kids periodically, and they're just
Yeah.
like, "Whoa!" I mean, it's really vegetable forward. It takes
But but
some
but you
getting
but
used
you've
to.
gotten to the point where you love it.
Oh, I eat the same thing every day for lunch. That's my noon meal, and to me, it is honestly delicious and
Yeah.
satisfying at this point. And a big part of my philosophy is I'm incredibly active. I get up every day, usually between 3:30 and 4, and I'm working out and busy nonstop between the time that I wake up and the time that I get lunch. So for me, I still regard food as fuel for my daily adventures. And I don't really want to take a lot of time thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch or for dinner. I don't want to spend a lot of time on menu planning. My goal is to have, I spend a lot of time doing food prep, cutting up ingredients and preparing them. I don't use any processed foods at all. But when it comes to the actual like cooking and making the food, I want to be as quick and easy as possible because I'm busy. I got plans. I got stuff to do. I have
So
a
so
I have a
so
Labrador
you
Retriever, and we go out and walk like 8 to 10 miles a day.
so me you're telling me that you don't eat any industrial products.
I mean, I will occasionally use like hot sauce. I like sriracha,
Oh,
and I mean,
I love cereal.
I mean that is a process.
Addicted,
Yeah,
addicted.
and that is a process. But I do not eat anything out of boxes. I do
No.
not eat anything that's microwaved. The foods that I eat, generally speaking, have one ingredient, and I
Yes.
cannot tell you the last time I ate fast food or had something that was some frosted carbo bomb. I don't snack. I don't eat bread or carbs or things along those lines. I mean, for me, I used to be a huge snacker and grazer, and that was like my downfall for years. But after being on intermittent fasting for a couple of years, I mean, I've been doing it more or less full time for almost 8 years now. After a couple of years, it got to the point where it just I didn't want sugary stuff anymore. And I still remember the appeal of like driving by like a burger place, and I can smell that kind of burnt grease smell. And one part of me is still, yeah, that smells. I remember that smelling delicious, but you know what? It smells really kind of sickening now because I know if I ate something like that, it would just sit in my gut like an anchor,
The
and I would be
the
so miserable.
the same the same thing. I haven't had a cigarette since 1991,
Hmm.
and I was a 3 pack a day man.
Good for
But
you.
I can't stand to be around the smell of cigarette
Yep.
smoke. I mean, and it's the same way like you're talking about when you ride by Burger King and you smell that grease.
Yep.
It's the same thing.
And
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a matter of I'm fighting it or denying myself or anything along those lines.
Your
It's just
taste changed.
my tastes have changed, and at this point, for me, if I want a real treat, I'll like grab a piece of fruit or something along
Yeah.
those lines. I mean, to my mind, the ultimate like decadence at this point is like a ripe avocado. Oh, that I mean, it's so buttery and creamy and
You,
delicious.
you,
It's like
you and my wife,
I would rather
you and my wife
have
would get along good.
give me the choice between avocado toast and like some coffee, the double mocha frappuccino with like four shots of hazelnut nut syrup and like extra sugar and triple whipped cream. And it's like, man, you give me one of those hot milkshakes, as Jen calls them. If I take one sip of that, it's going to repulse me. I mean, my taste
Yeah.
buds have entirely changed, and I'm never going back. Part of this
Okay.
is I consciously embrace manipulating my mind frame. It's like I used to be really stubborn about not facing my problems. And for a while, I really struggled with the idea of trying to fight my stubbornness. But one of the keys for me was I realized I could flip the script. I could turn my fatal flaw into my saving grace. And now I consciously use that stubbornness to benefit me. I'm
There
stubborn
you go.
about healthy behaviors and things that will move me in the right direction rather than things that'll undermine me. So
Okay.
working within
Last.
with my own nature and
Mhm.
using my weaknesses as strengths, that was really important to me.
Last question.
Okay.
One thing that you would say to anybody who tells you, that intermittent fasting is really not good for you.
Well, thank you for that question because I have had this conversation in depth with my doctor and my nutritionist and basically everyone on my medical team because they were all total orthodoxy. They were not believing this stuff. It's like intermittent fasting is like a fad diet, and breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and yada yada yada. And my argument to them was basically, okay, we've done it your way. I mean, I actually went through and I tried, okay, as a professional courtesy, we'll try to my going off intermittent fasting and doing breakfast and all that stuff for a couple of months, and we'll see what my numbers are. And surprise, surprise, my weight shot up, my numbers deteriorated drastically. And after like 2 months, I was like, okay, enough of this nonsense. We're going back to my way. And
Yeah.
my numbers started to improve overnight. So basically, my response to them would be, if you don't believe me, look at what I've accomplished. And yes, I am one person. I'm an anecdotal data point, and science loves to discount anecdotal information. It's like, oh, he's an outlier. He's not, he doesn't represent most people. But my response to that would be, what is science but the accretion of a vast number of individual data points? And if you look around, you look at the testimonials, you look at the evolving state of the art, there are thousands of people out there saying, this has worked for me. Nothing else has worked. And okay, you want to discount me? Fine. You want that and say I'm an outlier or I'm lying? Fine. Go and talk to Jin's entire community.
Yeah.
Go and talk to, I mean, there are countless Facebook groups here about intermittent fasting, some of which have tens of thousands of members. Go talk to all those people and tell them, oh, you're lying or you're deluded. At some point, when you have people who have tried their entire lives to lose weight. And don't give me this BS that, oh, if you haven't lost weight, it's because you're lying. You're about the amount of exercise you're doing. You're lying about how much you're eating. I'm not buying that all the people out there, the members of my tribe who've been trying so hard to lose weight, that they're all lazy gluttons who are lying about how hard they're working. I know how hard it is. I know how much passion so many of these people suffering through this for their entire life and dealing with the stigma of weight loss, having people look at you and equate your weight, your worth to your girth. And I mean, how many times when I was younger did I go on dates and women were just like, oh, no, I don't want to go on a second date with you because you're a fat slob. How many times was I passed over for a promotion because I was perceived as being lazy and unmotivated because I was overweight? Fatism is very real in our society, and the stigma that overweight people labor
True
under is very real. And you want to tell me that the people who have labored under that their entire lives aren't motivated to change their entire lives by just like skipping a few snacks? And if you go back to that whole calories in, calorie out, weight loss is the equation thing. If you take that over time, just like cutting out one snack a day consistently over a period of months, that should be enough to cause you to lose at least a fair amount of weight if that paradigm really held. But how many people have just worked and sacrificed so much and got no results at all because their bodies are in homeostasis and your body is convinced that you're starving, and so it struggles to hold on to that weight. That's the beautiful thing about intermittent fasting. It's not so much what you eat, it's when you eat.
Yes.
You're getting your body to start to burn, the fat for fuel, rather than just constantly feeding it glucose and having your insulin resistance being continuously out of whack. I mean, there's sound scientific underpinnings to this now, and just look at all the people who have struggled under the old paradigm and just suffered with no results their entire lives, who have suffered and died, feeling like they're weak, like they're failures, believing their doctors when they look at them and say, "Oh, yeah, you must be lying. You must be fooling yourself that you're not really trying that hard." When these people are making heroic efforts, and then you look at the community of intermittent fasters, and you see people. I mean, yes, it does require effort. It does require diligence and discipline. This is not something that just happens by accident. But if you dedicate yourself to it, if you make it your lifestyle, if you put the effort in, the difference is that you get results. And I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in so many different people. It's not like that this is some sort of magic trick or something along those lines. There's nothing illegitimate about this. It works. The program works. And is it easy? No. But how many?
But it becomes easy.
It becomes easier over time. It still requires discipline. It still requires effort. But this is a life-changing thing. This is something heroic that you're doing here. This is something that inspires people, and it sets an object lesson for your family. It shows your kids that almost anything can be overcome with intelligence and discipline and effort. And there's something just so profound about that if someone looks at me and tells me, that's not really healthy, that it's a fad, it's not really working. Okay, explain away my results. Explain away the results of tens of thousands of other people. And if you still just want to be, I still doubt you. I doubt all those other results. You're all lying. It's all trickery. You're all a bunch of fools. Okay, fine. You don't want to believe? You go your way. It's not my job to convince the world. I'm just here as an example for those who are willing to open their minds.
Here's the deal. And I've said this to I don't know how many people. You can take somebody who has an experience, and you can take somebody who has an argument. And the guy with the experience is going to win every time, because the argument, they don't have the experience and they'll never know. Listen, this has been fantastic. And I'm sure that it's going to get a whole lot of hits and views and everything. It's been a blessing. It's been a blessing to have you here and to hear your story and to hear your answers to my questions, because concise answers, very, very good. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up.
Okay.
And
If I
I'm
may
going
say, Michael, I want it to really just give you your applause and your moment in the sun here, because you're the person who started this group. You're the person
no.
who put all this together. You're the one giving me the platform to promulgate the message that I believe in so fervently. And
Well,
just your encouragement, your friendship, your determination, you are truly a light in the darkness, and it is a blessing to be your friend.
thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Means a
Okay,
lot to me.
absolutely.
Have a great
And
evening, man.
continue the journey. Keep up the faith. The program does work.
Yes,
Good
sir.
night, all.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And I'll see you next time right here on the Winner's Circle.